NRBC work session. Start with call to order.
Lucas Richardson.
Here.
Jermaine Sullivan.
Here.
Kathleen Grabowski. Sarah Harless.
Here.
Jess Stallings. Here. Mary Kay Wilkoch.
Here.
Kayla Willen.
Here.
All right, so in the last meeting, we kind of talked about how we proceed with, future projects. We reviewed our purpose statement, which Chief's got there on the screen, and Mary and Jess kind of suggested some that we kind of step back a little bit and look at maybe like developing a master plan or start putting some projects that we want to see in the future, long-term goals, short-term goals, together, and kind of spend the next, year in all the meetings in the future to kind of try to develop those projects rather than coming up with a project the same month or week and then trying to implement it. And that way we can get some volunteers, way ahead of time. We can maybe even bring some of this to city council, because essentially, in our purpose statement, we are supposed to try to recommend these opportunities, and I think we've tried to do all of our projects ourselves, and that's not really what this commission was for. So I think that was a good suggestion, and I don't really know where this is going to go, but I printed a map of the city of Manistee, and this could be a short meeting. We could kind of talk through all of our ideas in this meeting, take this home and bring it back, however everybody wants to do that. But my thought was, maybe we could just start marking it up and spend some time and, with all of our goals and things that we've heard from the community on what we want to do as an NRBC. So I don't know what else to say about that, but I guess take any comments on that.
Yeah, I agree. So I have a few things, and I'm not even sure if these are items that we can do or if we have to get approval for them, but I'll just give you a couple instances and then we can figure it out. So as I was driving downtown, it looks nice, and then we have the flowers on the poles, but the poles they're all rusty, they all need to be painted. Is that something we
Downtown, like River Street,
Yeah.
That's all gonna be DDA. But we can recommend that, though. I mean, we could say, hey, we noticed this.
Yeah, because it look really nice, except for they need to be taken care of.
I know they are working towards a streetscape, and I don't know when that's gonna happen.
Right. So, and then maybe that's all part of it too, I don't know. So then I thought, as you drive around the beach, it looks really nice when all of our visitors and our community are down there. But we have the little islands in the parking lot where everybody parks their vehicles so if you look at those really need to be.
Oh, in the big boat launch parking lot you're talking about?
Right. So I don't know if those just need to be weeded or gravel put in there, or I'm not sure what, And if you think about it, they do put a lot of the snow in there in the wintertime, so you have to be careful on what you do put in there so that it doesn't
Get torn up, yeah.
Yeah, that was my thought. And then I always thought the weeding by the fountain downtown, is that part of the streetscape again?
That's, within the DDA, but I don't know if they have any plans at that fountain at this time.
So like that whole area, comes like to a little,
Triangle.
yeah, it really needs some support. And then there's a couple benches that don't have any sides to them. They're just a bench, which is fine, but I think they need to be painted or upgraded or something. I don't know. Those are just things that I see if I was driving through as a visitor, maybe. And then I also thought, going down the beach on First Street, when you get to the Armory, it starts the section all the way down, with the flags and the whatever. So they have nice beach grass, and then there's always that one area that I don't know if they've tried to plant and nothing ever grows, always looks messy, and then you go to the next section, the same thing.
Yeah, I think they tried to plant something this summer, yeah.
Oh, So that's great if somebody would weed it then, because it's weeding bad. And then, so I was just gonna ask, I think there's like a fire pit, a big tall one, as you go around the loop.
Over by the
Yeah.
Lions Pavilion.
As you go further down, yep,
Yep.
there's one just sitting in the middle of the field. So there's no chairs or benches or picnic tables. So if a visitor comes, or they're just gonna bring their own stuff, you know what I mean? I don't know if that.
Where's that at?
Park?
So basically, everything past the roundabout is Douglas Park, but I'm writing these down because I think, I mean, we can just pass these things along if they're not observed.
Yeah, it's all easy things and things that I think would be a good improvement,
Mhm.
as you're passing by the beach.
So that last one though was, you said it was past the Lions Pavilion and.
Yeah, so if you're gonna go around the loop,
Yeah,
and then you go past all of the parking lot, then you get to that field before you get to, go down.
mm-hmm,
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's an open field, sometimes the kites come there or whatever. Well, there's just one big fire pit, sitting there, one big huge one with nothing around it. And I just thought that was kinda odd.
I don't think I've noticed that.
So those are mine.
Okay.
I did have someone call me with a complaint going out of, what was it? Out of the Little Caesars parking lot, I'm trying to think what you said. On the left side, there's a lot of landscaping, but it's kind of out of control.
Mm.
It would need to be, cleaned up or something. I think it's hard for the people that are turning there to see. So I just thought I'd pass that one along.
Yeah, it's second, it's in between First and Second Street in the alley.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. as you
between the
get
bank.
Left, she said.
So the couple things that I had on here were trying to plan, it seems like the banners, like we all are interested in that, and I think that's gonna make a big impact when we get those set up. Maybe a future goal, long-term goal would be identifying a bunch of areas. I mean, certainly a lot more expensive than what our budget can produce, but all the areas in town that would look really good with those banners is what I was kind of thinking. We got the police department area, we got fire department area that we've talked about, and then US 31, maybe on Washington, we could put some that have the DPW logo on them too. And then even throughout like Washington and Maple, maybe even like 8th through 12th Street or something, I don't know.
Maybe some going down to the Wagner Center by the senior center, going down Parkway.
Like on Monroe.
Yeah.
So I guess my goal in this is, and it's kind of awkward right now because we're trying to think all at once right now, but if we want to mark these up, and then I could take everybody's and then put all of that on one map, then, then we could kind of adopt that as like our master plan or whatever and kind of work towards implementing those projects. We've talked about dealing with that wall on First Street forever. That's something that we want to get done, I think. Did the entrance signs, we still got to figure out how we're going to maintain those throughout the summers.
I think it'd be nice to maybe put those flags or something too by, and support like the Painted Lady and Two Slices, right there somehow, that, maybe the A Street, Four Corners or something, I don't know.
Something for the school would be nice on your picture.
Right.
Also, did we see the new street signs? Those are real cute.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to hear it.
So it sounds like it would be really nice to have those signs positioned in areas that are going to where most people travel to, you know what I mean, to gravitate, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's to kind of
Like the gateway.
brighten up the area, yeah.
The guy to go through that area.
I even thought, somewhere over by, like where that Salty Heifer restaurant is kind of coming in. That's been kind of an eyesore, not that building specifically, but like all that
Area.
that pavement is just like all broken up and
Is that part of the plan though? Is that part of the new, when they do the street or the,
I don't think any of that's
None of that.
I'm not right away. No. all those parking lots are that big complex that had all those businesses. And, I don't know if there's anything that we could do to spruce up that right away when they do the US 31 project.
So just for clarification, is this group talking about developing a banner program to recommend to city council to implement?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Maybe this group could come up with some objectives or locations and recommend to city council to approve a banner program. I think that's what I'm hearing. Okay.
Are we gonna go back through our ordinances again? Because I think a lot of this, to remediate and eliminate the blight, I think we need to look at the ordinance again and the weed ordinance, because there's a lot of businesses that there's weeds everywhere, like
Yeah, it seems like, we kind of stopped talking about the weeds and the sidewalks all of a sudden, I think, this winter, and then, I don't know if,
The police department has, we take a ton of weed complaints, we forward them to the DPW. Our ordinance enforcement officer forwards several to the DPW.
I just meant talking
Regularly.
about revising the ordinance, so like, I think, I mean, to be fair, like, the DPW can only cut so many things, right, and they only have so many staff, so if we, keep on this program, you're gonna keep seeing what we have been seeing, cause, it takes 2 weeks for the letter to go out and then it to be actually enforced. I mean, is that what we want, or is there something that we could change to make that a little bit more?
Are they giving 14
faster.
days notice to cut the
I
grass?
think it's a 10-day notice, but, I mean, by the time you send in the notification, then maybe it takes a couple days to get it over to DPW, and then,
I think it probably is important for this group to prioritize what they think is the leading issue in regards to blight in the city. Is it tall grass? Is it mattresses in yards? Is it broke down residences, abandoned buildings? I think that's how I would start to say, when we look at the word blight, what is a priority, and then tackle it in that order. I mean, otherwise, I'm not saying, I'm not questioning, but otherwise you're gonna spend most of your time tackling something that's probably not as big an issue as something else. So I think in order to organize the limited time that this group has, what issues that is considered blight are top priorities for this commission? And I feel like that would drive what you recommend to council, whether it be ordinance revision or whatever else. That might help focus your efforts, just a recommendation.
I think we've kind of talked about that before. I mean, it's structure blight, right? I mean, and there's not a whole lot we can do about that. I mean, we've tried to find programs and
there's nothing out there?
there's nothing out there. So we've kind of refocused into more like the volunteer type projects. But I mean, I think sidewalks and weeds are, a concern in town. It's not necessarily blight, right? And now that we have a code enforcer, maybe that'll help enforce some of the structure blight and junk blight. I personally don't see a whole lot of junk blight. I know some people get fixated on 1 or 2 mattresses on a street, but I mean, I think the PD goes out there and takes care of that pretty quickly. It's not like we have mattresses that are sitting out there for months on end.
So this group months ago, maybe last year, was looking at ordinances that might help address some of the vacant houses. And there was talk about, this is back when Safe Built was here, and the city of Muskegon has an ordinance that you can't let a building sit for so long empty. And I wonder if this group has an appetite to go back and look at those things, maybe to recommend building or residences that sit empty.
yes.
So
Yes.
But again, you can see how, if you look at what your priorities are, you can expend your effort. Maybe this group could come up with some ordinances specific to vacant houses, and recommend those ordinances to city council, see if they would support that, or the ordinance committee, I guess, might be probably a better place to start. We just talked about that, and forgive me, I can't tell you if it's last month or last year, but it kind of fizzled out when safe built. We went switched directions there, so there was actual talk about going down to Muskegon and meeting with people to see what they do, what ordinances they have.
Yeah, so we reached out to them, and I mean, they didn't really have a whole lot to offer for that.
I can tell you the city of Muskegon had a huge problem 20 years ago with vacant buildings. It's a lakeshore community that lived in the lumber mill business 50 years ago, right? Sounds kind of familiar. And all those buildings sat vacant because they wouldn't sell them, they wouldn't fix them up. And so just driving through there, I feel like that's really bounced back in the last 15 years. And so maybe researching those type of ordinances, see if there's something we can recommend. Maybe you research it and find out there's not, but if we're talking about structural blight, we have a licensed contractor now. So the city has spent more resources on blight than they have since I've been here in 20 years. We have a building official back in the building, back in city services. We have a code enforcement officer, which is focused on blight, but also works on some other issues and will be helping with rental inspection when the snow flies. We have a zoning administrator. So now that we have these resources to really enforce these things, this might be a good timing to look and say, are there other ordinances that this group would like to see, probably to prevent blight? They would forward to the ordinance committee. Mayor, am I correct? That probably should go to the ordinance committee first, and then they can bring it?
I would think so.
So, and if you'd like me to research ordinances, I'll go ahead and volunteer it, and I can send that out. So if you would like me to look at other communities and what they have for, I probably have a bunch of my emails from that
For
conversation.
specifically vacant house ordinances.
Well,
Like
my
how to
memory
address
serves me
them.
correct, looking at northern Michigan, so taking Muskegon out, I think northern Michigan had a vacant building ordinance where you couldn't leave a building vacant for a year. There was some penalty, just leaving it vacant. I think it motivated people to fill buildings or so I can look and see what's out there and just bring it to this commission to see if you might look at it and say, we don't have an appetite, we don't like that. Or you might say, okay, let's work this thing and forward it to the ordinance. But that's a prime example of something this commission can do as well as projects. But that's more of a ordinance programming structure systems type thing that is sustainable. Mm-hmm. Tangible stuff is great, and this group does a great job of tangible stuff, but I think the bigger cause, something that's more sustainable, has a longer lasting effect is instead of saying, hey, tomorrow we're going to put banners out. Well, how about we develop a banner program and forward that to council? Kind of like, hey, next weekend we're going to clean a sidewalk, and this group did a great job cleaning sidewalks. How about we develop a sidewalk program and this something that can be sustained that lives on after this group changes out? Does that make sense? Something bigger that we can recommend to city council.
Which is essentially what we're trying to do with this
Certainly.
map and conversation, so.
So if I'm hearing direction from this group, I can research other ordinances related to vacant buildings or things of that nature, and we'll see what's out there.
Is the reasoning that you're suggesting that because we can't enforce anything on a vacant house except just the typical blight procedure right now?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I think that we need, now that we have resources for enforcement, I'm recommending you look at ordinances that address houses or buildings that are vacant and not blighted. And that was brought to my attention by Safe Built. They do in northern Michigan, I don't know, Petoskey somewhere. Because you might have a house that might not necessarily be blighted. And just so you know, blight doesn't apply to the inside of a home.
Right.
So you might have a home, in fact, I know there's 3 of them right now that are filled up with junk. But from the outside, there's no blight. So if we think that there's a gap there, that a house shouldn't just sit here for years because they don't want to pay to fix it up, and they don't want to sell it, if this group has an appetite to look at ordinances might address those types of issues, I could research it and bring it back. And I might bring it back, you look at it and say, well, we don't want this, but this is a conversation that we had last year that kind of died out a little bit, I think. In fact, it was the individual from Safe Built that brought it up to this group, so.
So can I ask a question? And I'm new, so again, this could be somewhat ignorant of a question, but, and I don't disagree with the chief in thinking that maybe we need to focus on broader things, bigger things, instead of weeding and things of that nature. I guess some of these things that we discuss and we look at, and again, maybe I'm naive and ignorant to the fact that I feel like those are responsibilities of DPW. Am I naive or ignorant to that, or I'm asking the question?
Well, as city staff, I guess I'll respond. Most of the things that you've mentioned, that she mentioned, is responsibility of DPW. Whether they have staff to get to, I can't answer that, but
I know that.
we couldn't do it, because then you're taking volunteers and doing things that city workers are paid to do. Most of the stuff I heard there, not all of it, it's most of it. The weeding, if there's weeds around businesses, we have a weeding ordinance. Businesses, just like you and I, have to cut their grass as well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, for example, I'm gonna go back to weeding the welcome signs. It's fine, didn't take us very long, it was totally fine. But they go out there and water it. There's no reason while they're out there watering it, they can't pluck the few weeds at the same time. And I'll say that sitting on this commission, and I will say that as a private citizen as well. So I guess when I read our purpose, I don't see
Volunteer.
anything, and I'm willing to volunteer my time, don't take this the wrong way, but I think we have a bigger purpose than some of these things.
Right, exactly.
I look at the St. Joseph, the old St. Joe School project that you guys did last year. My parents live right there. It's all overgrown again. It looked wonderful at the time. It's back to where it was. So while you guys put in like all that sweat equity, it's nothing that's maintained. So that's my concern to some of these things. Whereas, some of these things that we're talking about on city property should be a part of what DPW does to make Manistee presentable for our citizens and our visitors. That's just my.
Yeah, I think this commission, how we started this commission, like, it wasn't supposed to be us doing projects. It was supposed to be recommending projects and stuff. So I don't know if we.
And like the banners, I'm willing to do fundraisers for banners.
Yeah.
The fireplace, let's do a fundraiser to get chairs for the fireplace if that's what our commission wants to do. But bigger than just weeding and things like that I think we could really be.
What if we had, so like the stuff that Mary Kay had on her list, some of it's DPW, some of it's parks. What if we have these recommendations, and instead of sending an email saying, hey, recommend this, they get like a formal letter like, hey, we went through this stuff. This is the areas that we see needs to be addressed.
A little bit more formal. Well, I think no matter how we do that, it's gonna come across that way. I mean, people are gonna take that negatively, like that.
But even
that
if
they
you
didn't
don't,
see
then
it
nothing
first.
gets done. Like,
Exactly,
I mean,
so you have to do it.
We're not
one way
running
or
a
the
city
other.
on your feelings, so I mean.
Just do a click it thing? Can we just do a click it?
see, click, fix.
Yeah,
Do a
can we just do a see,
C-click
click, click?
So we're gonna leave here today and then go to.
Just to be clear, when I said DPW, I meant parks as well. DPW as a whole, so what I would think that if you want those areas addressed by the DPW or the parks, I would recommend sending a letter instead of recommending the council, because it's just gonna be council, the manager, I would go direct, I would give the parks and DPW a chance to respond to that first. You might find out, hey, we haven't been addressing those because we've been addressing these areas over here, so there might be a reason. The commission can do what they want, but instead of recommending the council thought that just looking at the way things move, but, that is this commission's decision.
You know, we don't wanna say they're not doing the job, because they are, you know, they're busy in the city doing things, and they're busy with festivals and helping out with everything. But maybe this is on their plan for the future, but it's just a good acknowledgement saying that, you know, we've noticed this. Maybe if we could say it in a nice manner, to whomever.
So you don't want me to write the letter?
No.
We'll have Sarah do it, probably.
You know, and when I look at this, like letter D, sponsor and have a community service day at least once annually. I mean, I hope we can commit to doing
The cleanup.
the cleanup. Like that could be our community service day once annually, having the dumpsters. I mean, like,
I agree.
if that could be our one big event annually. And even if we could do it twice a year, but I know it's costly, but even, you know, if we could commit to that once annually, if we knew it was gonna be, I'm just making this up, the third Saturday in April every year, and community members could plan on that. Kind of like what they do for the,
National Day of Service?
well, what they
Oh, they-
just did at the road commission with the paint and all that.
Yeah,
They
we
do
do
that the same
yep.
Saturday in August, you know what I mean? You okay there, Lucas? But.
This chair's like messed
We
up.
knew that was gonna be that way every year, and that was our thing.
Yep.
We got the volunteers.
I think you might find that that's the case, that event might grow as it becomes more publicized. You might find yourself getting people to volunteer their time and money, and it could be something.
And if, you know, if possible, we could have maybe 2 different locations.
Yeah,
so
right.
that people, it was more accessible to people, if we had more volunteers available. And maybe not even having to have DPW workers because we had volunteers and stuff like that, so.
So maybe what we need to do is everybody needs to come up and think of a good recommendation as to what else we can do, what you're saying.
I just think it needs to be,
We could support.
broad and actionable, like it needs to be, and it needs to be sustainable, not just a one and done.
Well, you guys did the, what was it, you and Kayla?
The Kids Safety Day,
So that could be
like, we
our specialty every.
continue to do that, for sure,
Right.
yeah.
Did we do anything else besides that one? Was there another one?
No. But I mean, if, again, I don't know of any other little cutesy festivals coming up, but if there was something and there, we could have a booth if we wanted to. I mean, I'm not committing to that, I'm just saying if there was, we could.
There's gonna be the fall festival in October downtown. I mean, you could set up outside of a business or something.
Yeah, you know, and,
But we could do that, but what are we promoting?
beautification,
Gotcha.
that's what we promoted at Kids Safety Day.
So I have a recommendation for the list. Mary Kay got going. Behind the Rocket Park area, next to the hotel, I don't know who owns that, but there's a giant pit there now. What is that for?
It's for stormwater.
Can
Drainage.
they put a fence around it so kids are not playing in it? Is that a thing? Do they put fences around those typically, or
We have 2 at the school and we do not.
don't? It's tough because it's so like close to the park there, so kids are like whoop, down there yelling into the tube, stuff like that.
I wasn't involved a whole lot in that kind of design of that, but I do recall them actually talking about a fence, and I don't know if that got kind of pushed for cost or the look of a fence on the beach or what, but yeah, I'm not sure. But it does, like, if there's a heavy rain, and we actually witnessed this, it filled about halfway up with water, so.
And then if kids go down there or anything, like, I don't know, that scares me, just because I have little kids too, you know? And then the other thing, I don't know, let me just voice this. So everybody walks the pier, all the way down, all the way down. But they're going down the main pier, whatever that would be called, and then taking a large step down that nobody can do on their own, and then walking the other part of the pier. Is there a way to put a handrail on that?
So the piers are owned by the Army Corps of Engineer.
Okay.
So any type of addition, construction would have to be approved by them.
Is that something we could put in for it? And I only ask because like my family went down and we went for a walk, and there was an older couple, like while we were going back up that spot, and the guy was waiting for the lady to like help her get down. I don't know, it's just.
So we can
Sure.
certainly recommend it. I will almost guarantee the response is gonna be,
Right.
you are not supposed to walk on the pier, because that is what the Army Corps
They used to
or
have-
even the Coast Guard.
They used to have a step there, but they took the step out when they redid the beginning of the pier.
Are you talking about First Street Pier where after the elbow it goes into the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. We don't own the piers, but we treat them the same as we treat our beaches, as you walk at your own risk. And that's, so we can certainly recommend that. To the, the question is, how is it funded? Assuming you would get approval. It took me about 5 months to get it, 4 months to get approval to put life rings that already existed out there. So it's a long process. It's the federal government. They do a great job. They're very methodical. So my guess is this group could recommend that to probably city council, the city manager, but just understand that you're asking for a handrail on property that the city doesn't own or
Right.
have authority over. So there's a challenge there.
Right.
Well, we just had a gentleman in a wheelchair go in the water, and that was something he was looking at. I said, well, we don't own that property, and so very similar to the conversation that we have about putting a gate up on the pier to stop people to walking out on the pier when it's dangerous out there. And so kind of the same conversation about the city doesn't own that. And you walk out on the pier at your own risk,
Got it.
so.
Good ideas.
Would it make the most sense if we can kind of summarize a list to send to you, chief, and then bring it up at staff meeting or something? I mean, for all these items for parks, DPW, DDA, Army Corps, I don't know.
Well,
How
it
should
sounds,
proceed.
what are we doing? Are we developing a strategic plan, or we're putting together a list of, some type of list?
I think there's two conversations right now. It's one, it's some of our recommendations for, some of the things that we found in the city right now, and then we're also trying to develop a objective checklist, I guess, and then also a master plan of the city.
So let's develop a list, parse out the ones that go to other city services, get those where they need to go, and then find some kind of platform to recommend this to city council. It might be ordinances, it might be programs, it might be whatever. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Am I hearing that correctly or no?
I think so.
So how are you doing the ones that go to city services? Like I don't want to just put it on you and you're like, hey, we had a meeting and this and this needs to be done.
I
But
think
what if it doesn't?
I think a letter should be written to the department director.
Yes.
So you guys can write me a letter if you want, or you can tell me in a meeting if it's a police department. But DPW, parks, I would write a formal letter so we have
Yeah, we can.
documentation.
We can
so
just
someone
summarize this and it's not a big deal.
And I would recommend that
If somebody just reads the memo and then they're like, ugh, whatever, they're still not gonna do it, like.
Yeah.
well, I would think in that scenario, there would be a process that if it was a memo and nothing got done, there would be some type of a process to see, to ask why it didn't get done. And whether in some arbiter of if it's a legitimate reason or not. So,
It seems like in almost every one of our meetings, there's at least one, like, kind of recommendation of somebody, like, spotting something in the community that is not necessarily our responsibility. So, I mean, to me, that, that's a recommendation from our commission, regardless of who it's going to. So
Yeah, I mean-
maybe we should have that on our agenda as, like,
Or maybe that just.
current
state-
recommendations, and then,
Right.
and then if we do end up sending a memo or a message to somebody, then we could, go back, have a portion on the agenda saying, past recommendations, have they been addressed or something.
Well, I think it's,
Sort of follow it up.
it's inevitable when one of our purposes is to identify, research, recommend opportunities and resources to help beautify the city. So I think it's inevitable to find these things. Ms. Harless talked about see-click fix. I'm hearing maybe some concern if things don't get addressed. If you put it in see-click fix, I know it's an app, but there's a trail now where there's timing and you have to get it done. Now, I don't know that, I don't know that's realistic to put 20 things in the see-click fix, because you're gonna just negatively impact the efficiency, but that's one way. If you're concerned, someone said if you do a memo and then they say, yeah, I'm not doing it, then you put it in see-click fix and they can at least address it that way, so.
They email me follow-ups on everything too, like it was sent to so-and-so and he did this with it and blah, 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 so we put a couple things in there too. It's fairly thorough.
And the things we're recommending are in high traffic areas.
Mhm.
It's not as if they're just,
Well, and some of it I'm sure is just overlooked, like you're so used to seeing certain things that a new set of eyes helps,
I think that if we're setting some kind of standards or recommendations or something, and we still have blight as part of our purpose, perhaps maybe we need to have the new employee come in and talk with us again, so that we can have a direction on us as our commission, what we really can do, because I don't feel that we have anything we can do for blight. Our hands are kind of tied for that.
Toby will be here the first meeting in September. We've already planned that. I didn't bring him to work session. I didn't think it was appropriate, but you'll meet him, and he is a wealth of experience and information.
So maybe he can give us some ideas if there's anything that we can do as our commission to help support him. I don't know.
Yeah, whether it's changing ordinances or what.
Under our recommendations, under blight,
Mhm.
maybe we could recommend to him if we see.
Yeah, I think it's important this commission hear from our code enforcement officer, our building official, and our zoning supervisor. I mean, and she usually is here. This is a work session, of course, but
Yeah.
to have that perspective, I think, is really important.
The other thing, we could do too, if we're, kind of stuck in the sand a little bit on creating more long-term goals is, maybe we could do a community survey. Say, what do you think we can do to help beautify, the neighborhoods? I mean, it's all gonna be just a list or whatever, and we'll have to, a lot of it is not gonna be useful, but there might be some ideas that we're not thinking of, and.
But do you think then we're just gonna get a lot to do with like parks and this, you know what I mean?
Well, but that's the stuff that, if it doesn't apply to us, then it's not any value, you're right, but I just know, that the beach master plan thing, that almost got like 1,000 responses. And there's a lot of good ideas for, the beaches and the parks. And, maybe people, if we make sure people realize, don't put on here, fix the potholes, like that's not gonna help us, obviously, but we might find a couple ideas that we're not thinking of.
So are we able to do fundraisers on our commission for, obtaining, I don't know, like you said, chairs or something for around the fire pit? Are we able to do that?
Well, that specific example I would leave to the parks, because that is a park under the jurisdiction of the parks. To your broader question, can the NRBC raise funds for equipment? I don't know. I know we have a room full of equipment. We have a backpack giant leaf blower amongst other things.
We have that scraper for sidewalks.
We have the sidewalk scraper. We also have a, I don't know, water sprayer and we have a bunch of stuff. But that's a good question, and we can probably get answers to that question.
You haven't been able to use that leaf blower yet, have you?
It's just ready and willing. Whenever it's time to get a project, I wanna see what it does. I mean,
It's gonna be fall soon. Just wait.
Yeah.
It's coming.
You know, we've talked about this in the past too, about, you know, the NHS from the schools, you know, maybe we can approach them and, you know, come to them with some of the smaller projects like sidewalks and stuff that we haven't been able to get really more than a couple volunteers. You know, we could just tell them, hey, these have been brought up in these locations, and you could, you know, use the NRBC equipment if there's someone there that, you know, if it's one of us or if it's, you know, someone we can trust or whatever with that, and then that's recommending, I guess, a solution
Well,
too.
and like Mary had said at the last meeting, like, if we could come up with a master plan, so we have it planned that far out, groups like NHS who do want to and need to get their volunteering under their belt can look at that list and say, oh, this day works for us, this day works for us.
Yeah,
So-
there's projects there, just
But we still haven't
not
even
dates.
decided exactly what our group is or what we're doing.
Mhm.
I mean, we have this list, which is a great list, but it doesn't pertain to us.
Mhm.
So we really need to like hammer that down, like Sarah was saying, and, you know, the longevity, of what we can upkeep and things like that. And I mean, while I'm thankful for this meeting, because I've learned some things and stuff, we still haven't hammered out exactly what we are or what we'll be doing.
I think just kind of refocusing and just keep reviewing the purpose of us is, you know, I think we all had a lot of energy to want to go do some of these things ourselves, you know, which is awesome. But then again, like, if we have a goal to do a ton of different things, we're not going to be able to do those ourselves. You know,
Right.
we can put it all on a list or a map or whatever and present it and work at it one at a time. I think that's a better way to do this.
So do we want to say that, you know, we are going to be a commission that will recommend to other committees or commissions if we see something that needs to be having some attention, we would send a letter?
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying?
I think so.
And then events, we could put some events that we know for sure, like the kids' family day or whatever.
Mhm.
And then the trash pickup day, we could actually put those as events that are going to be standard that we could add to our map and to our list.
Mhm.
And maybe find a supporting area to do that right away, so we're not waiting last minute, you know what I mean? So if we're gonna do it at the Armory, or if we're gonna do it at the Wagner's, or wherever in town we're gonna do it, we've already had it solidified so that we know it's, when it comes, we don't have to deal with it, it's already gonna be there. We know who's gonna work it. That was my suggestion. Then we're gonna support maybe some more flags throughout the town, and we're going to do that through the city council, correct? And ask them for their support, because we're not gonna be able to afford them.
Right.
So where do we get the funding for that? I mean, we could say, here, this is where we want them, but how are we gonna pay for those, is what I'm saying? And that would be, like, if we had enough, if we could do a fundraiser or something, I don't know.
Mhm.
I mean, I think we need to just write down what our purpose is, what our duties are gonna be, instead of just talking and talking, since this is a work session. I just think we need to get some things done.
Yeah, I mean, I've written down probably about 15 different things here on my map, so.
Kids Safety Day, is it like every first
It's
Saturday?
moved. It's gonna be in the spring every year, but I kind of pivot around what other communities are having their water safety day, so it usually is in May, but we competed with tight lines, so I have moved it to June this year, so it'll be in May and June of every year.
Okay, but we don't, it's not like the first Saturday or the.
Nope.
And maybe we could do supporting somehow, I don't know how that would work in, with tight lines. I mean, maybe we look at, you know, a festival or whatever's happening in the community to see if that would make sense for us to be a part of that, to get our name out there for more volunteers and tell what we're doing. And I'm not sure if that would even work, if that even makes sense.
Well, I think this is a lot of good discussion. I think, like you said, just gotta compile it all, so I mean, I'll put, what I've written down from this meeting together, but if, markups on the maps or, some locations of ideas and even some more lists to recommend to other commissions or departments, and maybe just bring them to the next meeting. Is there anything else?
So what's the action item? Do you want people to submit in writing to you what their ideas are, or do you
I
have
think
enough from?
just, doing what I did here and just
Okay.
mark up the map with your ideas, and you're gonna have some of the same things that I put on here, that's fine, but, and then I can actually put it on one big map and send it to chief, and you can present it to city staff even, and we can kind of talk about that later.
Are you all solidified now with where you're putting the flags from the last ones we purchased?
The ones that I mean, nobody responded, so I'm guessing we're gonna go from First down to River for that section, but the ones out here, I don't really know how to proceed because the brackets that we have drill into the pole, right? They're not like wrapped around.
I don't think so. I think
Maybe I can get with you after this on that, and maybe we can look at the,
they're in a box here.
You want to, yeah, they're sitting outside my office. Yeah, we want to take a look afterwards. I'd be more than happy to go out there and see if we can,
I'll do
Some of
that.
them go around.
there's gotta be a vicing type, I would,
If it's ones that go around, then yeah, we can just go for it, and, if they replace the poles, then, they'll.
yeah, well, we could take care of that. Real quick,
Ones that I just saw on that picture, they look like they drilled in.
The ones on the highway do, but I
Okay.
believe some go around.
Okay.
when would you like this submitted to you by commission members?
The map
Yep,
by next meeting.
next meeting, okay.
Yeah.
You want it submitted before next meeting or at next meeting?
Before, I guess, if we can.
Okay.
Anything else, anybody? No? All right. Thank you, that was a good meeting.